Hello everyone, I'm Elena Huntley, criminal justice major here at Sam Houston State University. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about Lombroso's theory and whether offenders are actually different from other people. Lombroso believed that criminals can be spotted based on physical traits like eye shape, skull shape, certain facial features. And at the time, it seemed scientific because, obviously it's not today's decade and age, like it's debunked, but that's all they really had. So today we see it as outdated, but that's what worked for them. And it's not really fair to assume that someone is a criminal based on the size of their skull, based on how wide apart their eyes are, how wide their nose is. So instead of focusing on appearance, we and I want to explore what actually does set apart some offenders, if there is anything at all. So I guess understanding his theory is he lived in the 1800s, and he was one of the first criminologists. And his theory was that criminals were born set apart, basically different from the rest of society, the rest of normal society, obviously. And you can identify them with things as like a skull, like I said, a sloping forehead, a large jaw, long arms. Basically, the thought of being a criminal was inherited and biological, and that is just something that you were born with and you can't change it, and you're forever bound to be a criminal because you have these certain traits. Over time, though, researchers actually debunked this, and there was no real scientific evidence for it. So then people realized that crime is far more complex and it has to do with a mental state of mind, and it can't really be explained. Like, it's just more so of that and not what any physical attributes that a set individual has. And Lombroso's idea often reinforce stereotypes and prejudices to certain races, to certain people, whether it's a female race, a male race, or black, white, whatever it is. So it's another reason why it isn't taken seriously. Okay, but today's society, though, there are things that do kind of explain why people are criminals and what sets different people apart from criminals and then like a standard civilian. For like example, environment does play a pretty big role. So if you were grown up in poverty without access to good resources, schools, stable housing, they might feel forced to retaliate to survival behaviors and commit crimes such as theft, murder, whatever, because they didn't have it good growing up. Family dynamics also play into it. Children who are neglected, abused, ignored, or in an environment, like I said, that has constant instability may carry that trauma into adulthood and sometimes leads to criminal behavior. There are also mental health issues as well. Like I said, underlying mental illness conditions, or even like substance abuse, or like being impulsive at the same time, which can make decision making harder. So instead of making the right decision, they lean towards the bad decision because they feel like that might be easier and they can't weigh out the better judgment. There might be patterns and stuff like that. So basically, just to debunk his entire thing, it's not about being born different. It's not about your physical attributes. It's based upon experiences, circumstances, and choices. Not every offender has the same circumstances. That's my third point. There are a lot of rich people in the world. Well, not a lot, but there are some cases where rich people do decide to commit these crimes, and there are many cases where people that are grown up in poverty also commit crimes as well. So not every criminal across the board has the same circumstances, has the same profile, basically. And some commit crimes because they see no other option. Some commit crimes because it feels good. Some commit crime because of greed, of anger, opportunity. Stealing food out of desperation is an example. And that's different from committing fraud for money. Basically, the circumstances weigh out, but not every offender has the same circumstances and is the same across the board. Personally, I don't believe that criminals are born different. I don't feel like that's something that you can inherit. I feel like I said, with circumstance and environment or just brain structure, that's what you choose to do and that's what you choose not to do. And they're not really acting different from society. I think what really separates the offenders in these challenges they faced is trauma, opportunity, lack of opportunity, poverty, greed, anger, of course, and yeah, which also means like rehab and restoration is just important as punishment is. Like, obviously you want this person to pay for what they've done, but then you also want them to get better as well. You don't want them to sit with the bad things that they've done and never gain any positiveness from that. So in conclusion, Lombroso's theory was an important early attempt to explain criminal behavior, but it oversimplified things. It's simple. It doesn't have anything to do with your physical appearance. It doesn't have anything to do with your skull, your brain, none of that. Offenders aren't biologically different from anyone else. What truly sets some people back are experiences. Life is all about experiences, and some experiences may be a little bit more harsh to others. That's why they commit certain crimes. That's why it may lead them to the face of crime and not the way they look. That's it.